Would you, could you, should you be Bubble Boy? Wait a second. Get me out of here! Before we get into it about self-isolating, today is day 7 of my diabetes management challenge, 30-day challenge. And I'm going to tell you, it was 2:40 in the morning after having a soft pretzel went up that high. And I was at work today. It was my 4th day in a row at work. Yay! And then during the day, it went down steadily, a little up during lunch. Came all the way down to about 85, 90 by the time I got home. And so it did pretty well today. So the management for me is going well. I hope for you, it's going well also. Because this channel is about inspiring you to take the journey with me to manage and improve our health so that it's not even a problem. Not just management, but get better if possible, day by day. So let's get back to if you self-isolated yourself. That's really my question. And what that did to you if you did. People who were elderly and people with medical conditions that they might have compromised immune systems during COVID-19 were the ones really dying from it. And they weren't dying of COVID-19, they were really dying of pneumonia. It wasn't the entire population. It certainly wasn't the children or healthy people actually dying. But did you self-isolate? I didn't as much as possible. I didn't wear the mask as much as possible. I didn't want to. Did you? I saw people driving around in their cars by themselves with the mask on. I saw people, when I was driving, just walking by themselves wearing the mask in 2020. I found that very odd. But they were convinced of it, and these were not elderly people. Now that was a strange time. There were government mandates. You weren't allowed to go to a gym because you might get breathed on and, you know, it spread through the air, COVID-19. And so somebody else might get it and I suppose die. It better be that serious, right? If you're gonna ban gyms from people being able to either work out there or use it to get healthy. I mean, that's why you go to a gym, right? Maybe to lose weight, use the treadmills. But you weren't allowed to. But then there were some essential businesses where you were allowed to go during at least a year. You could go to the supermarket. You could go to Wawa's. You could go to the liquor store. Yeah, you couldn't go to a gym, but you could go to a liquor store. As long as you stood 6 feet away and wore the mask. Kids couldn't go to school for about a year, at least a full school year. I know that was the case in my family. You can tell me if in your state or where you lived, if it's in another country, how long your family was not allowed to go to school. Ours were on the Zoom calls with their teachers. And I guess they got their grades that way or had assignments that way. For a whole year. 2020 to 2021. That's not that long ago. But my question to you is, how did that affect you and your family? Leave it in the comments below. It was everybody. And what did it do to you to be isolated like that, and to feel isolated mentally, because mental problems can come from being isolated. Now, I have social anxiety, so you would think for me, hey, I'll just be in my room all day and just be happy. I don't have to interact with everybody, but that's not really true. You couldn't go see a therapist, not in person. Yeah, I was able to keep going to get my medicines because you could see the therapist over a Zoom call. And pharmacies were essential businesses. People need their medicine. Some people have life and death medicine, right? Certainly if you have diabetes type 2 and you need insulin shots, that's life and death. Or other diseases, cancers, other diseases. Now, I'm not talking about hospitals. Obviously, if you're in a hospital and they tell you to wear a mask, wear the mask. You're in an environment where people are really sick, or else they wouldn't be there. And people do go to hospitals to die. But that's not most people. Most people go in and come out again better, right? That's the idea. Or at least better from whatever's going really bad at that moment. But how did it affect you mentally? Did you get depressed? Do you know people who might have had, because they might have got depressed, suicidal thoughts? Especially if you lived on your own. I mean, I live with my family, so there's social interaction there anyway. But I can see how for people who live by themselves, this was even worse. I don't care how many Zoom calls you're on. If you're working from home, it's not the same as face-to-face interaction. It just isn't. It's different when you're talking to another human being. So, tell me what you thought of that and how you coped. Because that's really what it was, right? We were coping with something out of our control. We had mandates by the government limiting our freedoms. And I mean freedoms even to go to a beach. That was in California and possibly New Jersey. I think our governor made that a mandate. I mean, you couldn't have marriages indoors with 100 people. God forbid somebody gets sick. I mean, that's what was said. Did you experience any of it? Did you go to your family get-togethers for Easter in 2020? Or the next Thanksgiving or Christmas? If you're elderly or you do have a compromised immune system, I want to know, did you go? Or did you isolate yourself because you kind of knew you were the one at risk in that situation? It wasn't the 6-year-old child or the healthy adult. But I want to stress here that medical conditions are not just physical, they're also mental. And being isolated can lead to, it just seems to me common sense, that can lead to major problems. I want to know, did anybody in your family isolate? Were your grandparents going to your family events? We had some that weren't. And it bothered me. And I was the one at the event. But it bothered me that some people weren't going because they felt that they could get sick and die. So, this is a really personal experience for everyone in the United States and the world, really. I mean, it was everything but living in communist China, where during COVID, they locked your door and you were just stuck in there if they found out you had it, until you didn't have it anymore. But we live supposedly in a free country. And now most people, I think, are in some way have post-traumatic stress disorder from it, because nobody even really remembers it now. Nobody really talks about it now. Now I do, because 3 months ago, after I found out I had diabetes, I went to my doctor, and he not only asked me, did I want a flu shot, he said, did I want the COVID booster? Now this is in 2025 now. I did get the original COVID vaccine. I am very pro-vaccine. I believe you, my God, get the polio shot, the mandated shots, get the measles shot, get medications if you're sick. Alexander Fleming with penicillin. If you're sick, take penicillin, get better. Not even vaccines, just getting better. Bacterial infections. But were you that sick? Were you that sick that you couldn't attend a family event? And what did that do to you? Let me know in the comments below. Because self-isolation, being by yourself, can cause many problems. And it's very serious. And hopefully what we experienced will never happen again. But of course, I'm not a doctor. Consult your doctor, please. I am not a physician. Do not take any medical advice from me. Don't do something that could put you at harm. That's it for this episode. But remember, live your best life day by day, managing and improving your medical conditions. I will on my end as well. Take care.